Yeah, so I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were looking at PlayStation 2 demo discs on his PlayStation 2 emulator, and it really hit hard how much we have lost as a culture, right? When I was looking at those demos and videos and images, it really was a relic of its time. It was a magazine that you played on a CD, on a DVD. I never owned a PS2. I grew up with the GameCube and the Wii, so that was an entire civilization that I missed out on. And watching my friend go through the PlayStation 2 demo discs, I just lamented and thought about we could never have this ever again because of the convenience of the internet. I got reminded of seeing my contemporaries making comics. They would put together single chapters of whatever they were working on. They would staple it together, making compilations like Shonen Jump, and then they would sell it online. And that concept to me was so weird because manga only did that because the whole point of making Shonen Jump was that these works were made to be printed on newspaper, on sheets of newspaper, super cheap. Like, I went to Japan and I got myself a Shonen Jump, an issue of Shonen Jump, and I was so dumbfounded of how the quality of the print and the paper, it was so flimsy. But that was the point. You were supposed to buy it for around like 500 yen. It was supposed to be as cheap as possible so children can get it on their way home from school, or they can just ask their parents to get them one. So it wouldn't break the bank, right? It costed as much as candy, but for hours of entertainment. But kids have phones now. Like, they have the App Store. They can spend their entire childhood playing freemium and free to play games and never have to spend a dime. Just look at the sheer amount of things that kids can do on Roblox. I haven't even touched Roblox in, like, man, in almost a decade. It feels like almost a decade. I remember when out 15 years ago on a very crummy Dell Pentium 2 laptop, I was playing Roblox on it and it was fun. And as time goes on, I remember like 5 years ago, I was at a family reunion. I saw my niece and my cousins. They were like 14, 13, 12 at the time. They were playing Roblox on their smartphones. And that blew me away. I was like, this is nuts. Why would anybody want to go back to a time where demo discs were a way to gather information, where magazines, where print media was a way to gather information when you can look up tutorials on YouTube? But that's not what I really wanted to talk about today. I really wanted to talk about how kids aren't growing up in a time where technology was fascinating. It was like a new frontier. Like the growth of the transition between 2D and 3D graphics in the 90s, it or like the evolution of 90s graphics to 2000s, and the perfection of it through the 2000s to the 2010s. And then after the 2010s, it just plateaus. And now you have kids that were born in the 2000s, mid 2000s, late 2000s. They grow up, they're getting their first memory, and just seeing the graphics of games just being okay. It was always this good. And I was thinking about how what is the 3D of today, right? And I didn't like the conclusion that I came to. I realized that generative AI, is that 3D boom that we all grew up with. People in the 90s and eight and prior, they grew up with. The technology boom is all being hoisted upon AI. And the one thing that I noticed that's so interesting, everybody was so hyped for 3D, the technology. And when it comes to AI, it's only hyped on one end of the spectrum. And it made me think, why is that? Because when 3D graphics were getting on the scene, like, I think we were probably using it. Don't quote me on this. We were using CGI probably in the 90s or 80s, right? Even in its infancy, it was helpful to simulate lighting, to create special effects, to make film production cheaper. My mind is strictly on the entertainment side, right? And I'm pretty sure they had a lot of uses in architecture and whatnot. Because with that, you're using a lot of primitive geometry. And if you look at a lot of industrial design, it's very primitive. It's a bunch of squares and spheres and cones and pure prisms, right? But the thing about AI, it's so weird how when it's on the scene, it's just thrusted upon us. It's people with money who don't have to go through the free market of ideas. They say, here's a product, here's a lot of money being thrown at this product, and here's how you are going to interact with this product. And every single time people have interacted with this product, it becomes a fad, and people disregard it. The only time we see the growth of AI is seeing it compared to Will Smith eating spaghetti. And the thing that comes to my mind with an immediate comparison is Pixar with Toy Story, right? And I say, when you look at Toy Story now, it's still a very beautiful movie because it's crafted by people. My phone went off. Why did my phone went off? I'm keeping this in. Okay, doesn't matter. I'm keeping that in. When Toy Story came out, it was still a very visually pleasing, beautiful movie, even by today's standards, because it's made by people who care, made by people who understand appeal and quality. When you see like generative AI by today's standards, it feels a lot like wolf in sheep's clothing. It feels like mimicry that you see in nature. What you think is beautiful is actually something that is predatory. And it's ugly when you get close enough. And I wanted to say, it goes back to what I said before of how this feels like the free market of ideas is only meant for poor people, because the people throwing money at this has unlimited amounts of money to shove down our throats, to shove in our eyes, to say, this is worth it. This is worth it because look at all the money we're throwing at it. Look at all the things that you can do with it. And when we have the product in our hands, it's worthless. I remember I had a conversation a couple weeks ago. It was a pretty infuriating one. And I remember the person I was talking to was saying, "Why don't you use?" Well, he didn't ask me why don't I use generative AI for my comics. I he said that AI would get to a point where I didn't need to do what I do. And amongst a lot of back and forth, I remember the penultimate thing that I said was, if AI can do it for you, it's not unique to you. And I understood that he didn't understand it because he replied with, "There's nothing new under the sun," right? But I wasn't talking about making something new. When I say something that is unique, I'm not talking about what is new. I'm talking about AI cannot. I would say you as an individual you are an amalgamation of your experience from the day you were born to now. Nobody else can have that experience of where you are, how you grew up, how your parents treated you, how your friends treated you, how your environment treated you, the air that you breathe, the food that you consume, and how it shaped your cognitive abilities, your physical abilities. All of that cannot be replicated by AI. AI cannot break down what is beautiful. It can only replicate the end result. And what I noticed by talking to the person was they were using AI as a production tool. They really liked the idea of making music, but hated the hard work that was put into it. That's what I got out of the conversation. And I noticed that is what draws a lot of people to it. I'm not saying that there will be a day where people are going to be like, okay, yeah, AI is here forever. That might be it. That may or may not be the future, right? Because, like I said before, the free market of ideas is only applicable to you if you're poor. These people have unlimited amounts of money from the government, from the banks. And if the banks or if the powers that be say, we want to make a reality so abundant with noise just to fill our bottom dollar, there's going to be more people, and the more people that there are, the more eyeballs we'll have, the more attention that we have, the more messages that we can feed people to tell them this is what reality is. Your reality is so real to the point it's so real to the point that whatever we say it is, you know? But that's something that I wanted to say. It was a really weird experience. I don't think we can ever go back to PlayStation demo disc. It's crazy how this all just came from just talking about PlayStation demo discs. But I'll end it here. Man, I don't think we can go back. I think the best thing we can do is think about how can we invoke that feeling with what we have today, because people don't want to go back. If you want to make a magazine, people are going to be like, why can't you just have it digitally? I want to access everything on my phone. It's convenient. The cost of your soul is convenience. The cost of beauty is convenience. The cost of the good and the sweat of your brow is convenience. Do we reject convenience? Or do we work with it to mold the future in our image and not the image of the people giving it to us, not for free, but for the cost of our souls?